Welcome to the Maintenance Community Podcast, a podcast for people who want to learn more about all things maintenance and reliability. I'm your host, Ryan. I'm the CEO and founder of Upkeep. In each episode, I'll be meeting with an expert in our maintenance community to take a deep dive into topics to help elevate our entire industry. These topics are sourced from the Maintenance Community Slack group, which is the largest online community for maintenance professionals all around the world. And today, I'm super excited to have Luke Smaul here on the show. Luke is an experienced technology and business leader in the IT manufacturing world. He brings over 15 years of experience to the table while working with his clients on their digital transformation initiatives. So welcome to the show, Luke. I'm super excited to learn from you.
Thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
So the way that we always kick off these podcasts is, have you share a little bit more about yourself, your background, and how you were first introduced to this field of maintenance and reliability?
So you said 15 years. Terrifyingly enough, it's really 20 years since I started in this world. I was wiring panels, hooking up PLCs, doing SCADA programming before it even finished college. That sort of, started with the system integrator, relatively normal career. I think it must have been like 2010. I was at GE. I was still in Europe. I was a field service engineer. I think through a lot of hard work, serendipity, some great mentors. I think, frankly, moving to the US actually helped. My career sort of skyrocketed, and I found myself in this really interesting position where I was responsible for professional services sales for the GE Intelligent Platform suite of products. So some people might know their MES product, plant applications, the Prophecy suite of products. It was my neck on the line for all of the big manufacturing deployments that GE was doing with their software in North America, or even I think at one point it was the Americas. But of course, 2016 is around the time that Jeff Immelt had this, what I would argue is still an extremely solid vision. The industrial world is now getting impacted by this digital trend, right? It was the first time we kind of heard about digital transformation as industrial companies. Probably in every vertical you could think of, manufacturing vertical you could think of, I had a brand name account that I was really responsible for making sure they were leveraging the technology as best they could and getting value from the technology. It's sort of like the Netflix moment of GE or the GE software business, where I was kind of looking after the customers all receiving DVDs in the mail. Jeff says we're going to move to a streaming business. And if you know the story of Netflix, when they made that shift, the CEO famously kicked out all of the executives from the mail side of the business from his weekly staff. I kind of kept one foot in both camps. I was a huge believer in this Immel, or the vision that Jeff had, but also wanted to take care of what we now call Industry 3.0 customers. So I got the sponsorship to present to him a couple of times. He bought into the vision and helped myself and my team land some pretty large accounts onto what was the Predix platform. I'm sure some of your listeners have experience with that platform, good, bad, or indifferent. That experience, I can stay around here and sort of protect my turf, right? Kind of the classic executive role, or step out and try and bring that or those lessons to as many people as possible. And that's part of the reason why I founded my firm Chakra. And I've been helping industrial companies really navigate this digital industrial space.
And it sounds like you've dedicated a big portion of your time, energy, effort, and also your career to this digital transformation. Maybe we could take a step back and kind of define what that is to some of our listeners. I was reading one of your posts or articles around the difference between digitization, digitalization, and the digital transformation. What is that? And why is it important to differentiate these three different terms?
Up until 2016, I'd been doing digitalization, right? I'd been using Industry 3.0 stack for manufacturers to get them value. Industry 4.0, industrial IoT, makes that leaner, meaner, faster, cooler, frankly, right? But it's still just digitalization. Let's just be clear, right? If you're making a process better, that's not going to transform your industry. Digital transformation with a capital T, that was born out of economic level, seismic shifts in what technology was doing to the world. And specifically, people like Jeff Immelt recognized relatively early on that seismic shift that's happening in technology, what we were seeing in the consumer space, was going to have a major impact on the industrial.
I'm at a manufacturing plant. What are some examples that you would say are representative of transformation versus digitalization?
We'll pick a pump, right, running on the shop floor. The big thing that happened between Industry 4.0 and Industry 3.0, to get information off that pump, to push it through, making the connection to the PLC, PLC to an OPC server to SCADA, SCADA to historian maybe to an MES, all the way up.
Mm-hmm.
If a maintenance tech had a hypothesis about, I think that pump sounds funny, and they went to the IT department, or maybe hopefully the OT department, and said, hey, could you put an extra sensor on that? Because that thing is shaking funny, and I think it's going to damage this machine. The IT department, OT department would say, you're out of your mind. That's going to cost us probably, $2 million to pull in all these vendors just to stick a sensor on. Industry 4.0, still digitalization, we were able to literally go with a roll of duct tape, no baling wire, just a duct tape, a smart sensor, stick it on the pump, shoot the data up to the cloud. We actually did do some edge processing, and pull in data scientists with, pretty large data sets. I mean, not big data sets, I don't mean that, but like pretty high frequency data off a vibration sensor. Get the data scientists to look at it. And within, a few weeks, say to the maintenance tech, yeah, you're right. That not only is that pump shaking and it's going to potentially fail, we also proved that it's going to degrade the quality of the process it's supporting. I mean, I love it. I'm passionate about it, but that's not transformative, right? The transformative side of it is, who owns that pump? Where did that pump come from? Does the manufacturer know what's happening? Did they get any feedback from us when we did that analysis to say, hey, you know what? At this particular temperature, on this particular process, in these conditions, your pump starts to shake a little bit. That's closed loop. That's all easy, right? We've just got to connect everything. And as if by magic, the owner of that pump is suddenly going to be incentivized and aware of the use case I just talked about. My experience was when you bring all that data up and you put it on this magical platform in the cloud and you start talking up and down the supply chain, the conversations these companies have does not incentivize any sort of collaboration or data sharing around why that pump failed. If typically the relationship between the person that made that pump and the person that owns that pump is all around, hey, I'm going to sell it to you for a bunch of dollars. We're going to get through the warranty period together. Hopefully it doesn't fail during that time. You're probably going to keep my service people around maybe a year after the warranty period. Then as soon as you can, you're going to get them off site because we're way more expensive than a third-party local maintenance crew. Data is actually used as ammunition often to either enforce the original contract, enforce warranty, or beat people up about the service contract. So when you start getting into these conversations around data sharing, it doesn't really flow as easily as we think it's going to be. So transformation, to me, the owner of the asset and the person operating it could collaborate and could share data and would have a mutually beneficial service model and wouldn't just end up eroding each other's businesses to make that a reality.
So, Luke, you also, in another one of your articles, in your videos, you talk about like the second wave of this digital transformation. We're talking about this. You kind of see two distinct phases, and maybe there are even more. I'm curious, from your eyes and thoughts, what's the difference between the second wave, the first wave that we have seen and we are seeing today?
If we put the first wave as roughly around that time I mentioned, where industrial leaders were seeing what was happening in the consumer space. They were scared of Uber. They were scared of Airbnb. That kicks off wave one. Unfortunately, as what typically happens in the world of technology, the world of even consumer, when a trend pops up, everyone wants to get behind it. What people quickly figured out was, if you watch the budgets we were getting at GE, or if you watch the money being poured into digital transformation, if you're a system integrator, if you're a management consulting firm, why wouldn't you rebrand everything you do as digital transformation and go get some of that money? And that's really wave one. And that was married then to massive failure rates. Yeah. Right? You see, I've seen 75%, I've seen 85%. And it's impossible to really go into those numbers because we're still discussing what does digital transformation even mean. So some weeks I lose faith. I hope we're coming out of wave one. But wave two, Ryan, to me is And people just go back to basics, right? They go back and ask, well, what's the problem we're trying to solve? What's value mean to our customers? Who are the people? Like, how's this going to impact the people? Right? All the stuff that we always forget when the next wave. I've been, again, doing this 20 years. Where the next wave of tech comes, we forget about all that. We've chased the hype, doesn't work, and then we reset and go ask the people, hey, what do you actually want? So I'm excited by wave two. If we're going to use those terms, I consider Shocker kind of a wave two, my firm kind of a wave two company, where I just want to go talk to manufacturers. And like, I'm not saying you have to understand the big, software is eating the world, blue sky vision, but you better have, one eye on that world for sure. But even just, if I do nothing more than for a manufacturer than you just save them money from unnecessarily modernizing their current stack, happy days.
It's so interesting that we're having this discussion, because on one end, we're saying digital transformation is the complete restructure of the way that we think about digital manufacturing. And then on the flip side, what I also hear is like the second wave is like the focus back to the basics as well.
It's both, right? And it is the trick, which is really where I want to go next with the firm and help as many people as possible. And that's part of why I launched my YouTube channel. You've got to be able to do both. So you've got to review what's happening at an economic viewpoint or scale. And the easiest way to join the back to basics dot to that rather big dot is, can you actually explain what you're in business to do today?
Yeah.
Why do people buy from you today? And you probably know that's a hard question for a lot of companies to answer.
You kind of mentioned you're on this mission to tackle all the different challenges of the industry 4.0 and digital transformation. What are some of those challenges that you expect to overcome? Like, what are some of the challenges that you're seeing today in the industry as it relates to the digital transformation, getting people to adopt, industry 4.0 and more?
We've got to get comfortable jumping between these two worlds. Yeah. We've got to get comfortable with the level of change, not even mentioning the C word over the last year and a half, right? But get comfortable with the level of change and disruption. Have executives in place that are able to adapt into that world. So that's one, you got to have that mindset. And then, we got to go all the way back, drill right down to the shop floor. And the real risk I see as we go back there, as we say, okay, the big stuff is cool. There's a huge amount of fatigue because it feels like the big stuff didn't work. Yeah, maybe it didn't work, but the trends aren't changing, right? The economic shift hasn't gone away. We've got to make sure we're still delivering software, delivering manufacturers value through technology in the ways that we always have, right? Are you talking to the right people? Have you leaned out the process before you apply any technology? Not doing technology for technology's sake, not modernizing your stack if you don't need to. Data sharing, I mean, that's just a passion. How the people at each end of that conversation, each end of that data pipeline converse and talk today is not that it's broken, it's just designed for a traditional linear business model. That's the stuff we got to start chipping away at, so that as we get better with the tech, as it gets adopted, as our factories get better, as our technicians get smarter, we can then start to see the big macro stuff actually click into place.
Can you share with all of our listeners all the different ways that they can connect with you and follow you on your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the best and simplest way is find me on LinkedIn. I'm super active there. I'll respond to anyone who pings me. LUKESMAUL on LinkedIn. Get on there. You'll be able to see I offer a free masterclass on this stuff. There's a YouTube channel now which you can get to from my LinkedIn, where I'm trying to post at least once a week, just unpacking some of these ideas and making them real. But I think simplest thing, go find me on LinkedIn and go from there.
Awesome. Thank you again, Luke, for joining us. And thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in to today's episode of the Maintenance Community Podcast. My name is Ryan. I'm the CEO and founder of Upkeep. You can also find me. I'm super active on LinkedIn alongside Luke. You can also find both of us in the Maintenance Community Slack group, and you can ask us any questions from today's episode or also suggest some future topics. You can feel free to sign up at upkeep.org, and I hope to connect with all of you guys soon. Thanks again, Luke. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ryan. It's been a pleasure.